afraid. I say I'm living on the fringe.
Okay. Thank you, Andy Harmon. Thank you, Veronica.
Okay.
We are at the High DeF Fringe Festival. We're streaming live around the world. We just had a wonderful performance by Grayson Hale's Souls of the Kingdom. And we're moving on. We've got another act waiting to go on.
Yes, we do.
This next performance is called Moving the Mountain, and it's by an out-of-state performer, out of California, named Abby Palen. Abby is a recent graduate of the University of Cincinnati College Conservatory of Music. And her play, Moving the Mountain, is one person's real-life fairy tale. She says she's Abby is a non-binary, jolly human being, and she's going to find out in this production what it means to be human. So, without further ado, Abby Palen.
All right. Hi, Abby.
Hello, am I heard?
Yes.
Yeah, can you turn that up?
Yeah. Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Is it possible for you to turn your screen? Because right now you're sideways.
Oh, let me see.
There you go.
Yeah. All right. Yeah.
I'm gonna tape my phone to this stand.
Okay.
Great.
Goofy here. Let's try this.
Living on the fringe.
Living on the fringe. I'm going to be dreaming about your song forever.
All right, it's a hit.
All right, and now.
Oh, that's beautiful, Abby.
All right. Oh, yay. Welcome to High Desert Fringe.
Oh, no.
I planned the wrong way, the wrong landscape.
Oh. Well, hey, this is how we know it's live theater, right?
That looks great. That looks awesome. Okay, so without further ado, Moving the Mountain.
Yeah.
I feel introducing me. Hey, my name is Abby Palen, and sometimes I feel like an alien. For somebody with such a smiley voice, I love punk music. The average mosh pit fills me with more joy than a 12-year-old gets from a golden retriever. My interests include wearing clothes that make me feel zesty, chanting the Communist Manifesto, and swapping sagas drunk with strangers. I just feel like really connected to your story. I collect stories, and I stick them in my shoes so I can feel their weight when I walk. You're about to hear a lot of the stories from my little collection, but mainly you're about to hear the story of Abby versus Edna and how I took that bitch down. I'm an artist and an actor and a Leo and a lot more, but introductions are hard, and you're going to get me by the end of this podcast, regardless of how it starts. So hi, welcome to Moving the Mountain. There's no perfect way to start a messy story, so buckle up and let's get started. Halloween. I'm a freshman in college, majoring in acting at the University of Cincinnati College Conservatory of Mouthful. And as you can imagine, every young artist was trying to find the perfect costume. Me being me, I just decided to go as myself. I have this old photo of myself from kindergarten where I'm sitting on the front steps in this plaid dress, absolutely cheesing for the camera. The perfect touch for the costume was a slick set of roller skates, which I didn't have in the photo, but I also didn't have in real life. When I went online and saw their real skates were $285.77, I was horrified, and I said no to that purchase. But I still really wanted the skates. So I went on eBay and I bought a pair of children's size 13 roller skates for $10. And I cut the wheels out of the children's skates, and then I took a pair of combat boots from Rue 21 and I cut the boot part off of that. I then took 14 pairs of shoelaces and just tied the whole thing together around my foot. Boom. Do-it-yourself roller skates. My toes did hang off the edge a little bit, and so did about an inch of my heel, but one day, I lit up like 7 sticks of incense and I just started skating up and down the dorm floors. I made it up and down the entire building before I started getting chased by the RAs. I was waiting for the elevator on floor 9, and I heard out of the left corner of my ear,
Have you seen someone roller skating around trying to start a fire?
I wasn't trying to start a fire, but I can see how it could have maybe been interpreted that way. And that's when I saw it. An open door. And I knew the girls that lived there. So what had happened is that a couple weeks before, somebody had been screaming in the trash can and using a broom to sweep themselves across the floor while crying dramatically. And so, I knocked on some doors and I was like, is your roommate emotionally compromised? And I met them at that point in time because I'd knocked on their door. So I talked to them and I knew them, but I didn't really know them, but I figured I had to try something. So I busted into their room. Hey guys, so I'm kind of being chased by the RAs. Not a big deal, it's super chill. Could you hide me? Now, the second I finished that sentence, an RA popped their head into the door.
I'm looking for someone roller skating around with a candle. Have you seen them?
Those dazzling floor 3 angels said no. And to this day, the RAs don't know who exactly was trying to burn down the dorm hall on roller skates.
Yeah, what?
So, don't tell on me. I'm a big Abby Palen alien skating around the world looking for something exciting. And Abby Palen, it's actually a little isolating to try and talk to people sometimes because I don't want to change. Sometimes it feels like everybody around me is trying to change who they are and become this person that they aren't. It's like everyone is trying to find a character instead of finding themselves. Change is very different from growth. Change is fueled by other people and their perception of you.
Where'd you get that? Goodwill.
GameStop is the best place ever. I can't believe you don't like it.
You look stupid.
Everybody's judging you. Or it's fueled by your shitty perception of yourself.
They're probably right. Nobody thinks I'm good enough.
I need to get my shit together.
Why am I so awkward?
I hate my skin. I hate myself. Then you let these perceptions into your life as fact, and you let your view of yourself warp based on the judgments that have no bearing in reality. And then you decide to change. And you change based on opinions that won't make you a happier or more authentic person. Growth happens after you recognize something has made you change or something makes you want to change. You let the untrue thought or comment in, and then you turn it on its head. You make that unkind remark or thought an opportunity to accept yourself or accept you want to find a better way to be yourself. I need to get my shit together. I'm going to get a planner. You look stupid.
So what? I like what I wear.
Nobody thinks I'm good enough, but who cares what they think?
I keep dozing off in classes. I think I'm going to try and get more sleep.
Growth happens because we have our best interest at heart. Change doesn't need that. Don't change. You won't ever change enough. It's tiring. And I don't know how you feel, but I hate being tired. Ooh, I guess now is as good a time as any to introduce Edna. Edna, say hi. Yeah, she's a bitch. She's also not real. The summer after I was a junior in high school, I lived in Murray, Kentucky with a summer program called the Governor's Scholars Program. And there were weekly speeches called Between a Tweet and a Blog. Teachers would get up and share life stories. And I went all 5 weeks that it happened, amazed at the people around me and their capacity for growth. One woman, I don't remember her name, got up to give a speech on the 4th or 5th week. She was the last one to speak, and I remember I thought it was strange because there were usually 10 stories, and she made the story count 11. She started by admitting she hadn't been planning to share her story that day, but that the world asked her to. The day before, a survivor had come to campus to talk about sexual assault in Kentucky. And all around, people complained about how boring it was and how it didn't relate to them as high school students. But that woman proved them all wrong. She was a survivor herself, and she shared her story.
I'm telling this story for 3 reasons. 1, I'm telling this story for everyone who shared my experience and can't yet tell their story. And 2, I'm telling this story for myself because I need to hear it.
To believe it
Because I'm still healing every
single day.
And 3, because every single person in this room right now has woken up. And why would you go back to sleep when you can be awake?
Waking up. What a beautiful way to explain awareness. It's every moment you decided to grow instead of change. Waking up is the first step of moving a mountain. One time at a college party, I threw up in the sink. So 4 months later, I met one of the homeowners in a coffee shop. And the second I saw her, I just started word vomiting all over her. It was me that threw up in your sink 4 months ago. I'm so sorry. And then she stared at me and looked down and looked back and looked up and looked all around and gave herself whiplash looking in every direction. And then was like,
what are you talking about?
Yeah, so she'd completely forgotten. So I'm over here stressing for 4 months. Well, she probably forgot 4 or 5 days after the event. I woke up in that moment. Maybe telling the truth is better than acting a fool and then festering in it. See, what wakes you up isn't important. It can be a really, really big thing or a really, really little thing. The only thing that matters is that you stay awake. See, when you don't listen to a lesson the first time, you just keep looking for the same lesson. Me, Abby Palen, I get high off pure achievement. Just the act of doing something hard. I ran for a full year, topping long distances every weekend. I would finish a long run and sit on the kitchen floor just staring at the wall. My body would buzz. Edna would be silent for minutes at a time, sometimes hours. But I pushed myself too hard just to keep Edna quiet. One morning, running a 10-miler, my legs felt weird, and I pushed through it for a mile, but they gave up. I hit the ground, my calves burning with every movement, and I remember getting angry, so angry. I got up and started running again, breaking a pace I had never run before. 1 mile, 2 miles, tears streaming down my face, and screaming in my head that I needed to run. I needed to run. I couldn't finish the run. I tried to run for weeks after, and the pain didn't go away. The doctor I saw told me to take care of yourself, eat more, stretch more, and look at the physical therapy. But I just gave up. There was no achievement in stretching, or physical therapy, or eating. There was no glory in healing. I remember staying with a host family in Germany before I went to GSP. I would take daily runs down the pathway in the same town of Dusseldorf. That's right, Dusseldorf. The Bike-Strasse that ran through the town was about 20 miles long, and you could run to towns over. Edna and I used to run to a train station 6 or 7 miles away and go back. That's how I spent my entire summer, running. I would finish a run and go to a room that wasn't mine, where I would stare in a mirror that wasn't mine and look at a body that had completely stopped feeling like mine. Edna isn't my high school bully or my ex-partner. Edna is my mountain, the darkest part of who I am. Edna is my eating disorder. When I filter my younger years through this lens of addictive achievement, it makes sense that I got an eating disorder. I was a perfectionist in high school. I got all A's in every class. APs didn't stand a chance. I was the type of human Edna loves to make her bitch. It was never the grades or the running that I liked. It was what happened after. It was the achievement. When achievement becomes the only thing that fills you up, you lose yourself. I loved ending runs, but I hated running. I loved taking home perfect grades, but I hated school. And when the grades and the distances and the weight loss wasn't satisfying, I'd just do more. I craved nothing less than perfection, and I was willing to change anything to get there. The last week of between a tweet and a blog at GST, the counselors announced that students would be telling their stories, and 10 students would be chosen. I got chosen to speak my story. One of the first dates I took with my now ex-boyfriend was to GameStop. I don't have a problem with GameStop, don't get me wrong, but 3 hours inside of a GameStop is a very, 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 very long time. Listen up, kids. GameStop is not an ideal date at all. I mean, it wasn't 100% awful. It was more like 88% awful. I saw the Pokemon game I played when I was 5, and I played Dance Dance Revolution until I was sweaty and froze. The real downers were the fact that the night was mostly singular and not with him, and the rides there and back because we had nothing in common. Nothing. The really sad part is the fact that I dated him for 4 months after this incident. I pretended I liked what he liked. I Googled half the Star Treks. I stumbled through the Star Wars. I pretended that I hated Harry Potter and the Hunger Games because they were too mainstream. And it was a lie. And when he broke up with me because I wasn't his favorite flavor of ice cream, I was pretty confused. See, I have this pattern. I'm a serial people pleaser. I worry so much about other people that I forget me, myself, and I need love and attention as well. One of my first shows was at the University of Cincinnati. I played Lizard and Frog and Toad. It was our first dress rehearsal, and I watched the other girls expertly apply makeup. Their moms were stage moms, and they were God's gift to the world. And I really, really, really wanted to be. So on opening night, I stole some of my mom's makeup, and I painted my face to look pretty. But when you don't know anything about makeup, it isn't pretty, and people will laugh. And you will wonder why fitting in is so hard. In 6th grade, I was called larger than normal during a BMI test in health class, but I didn't care because I was me. And me was large and loved ice cream and Harry Potter. But in 9th grade, when a friend had the audacity to call me a pig, I realized I hated myself. So I lost weight, but also so much more. I lost friends, sanity, what made me me. I traded warmth for bones and love for hate and joy for depression. I was cold, like wrapped in 3 blankets with freezing limbs and hair that fell out in clumps as I withered away. I became a person whose first thought when the doctor informed me my liver was failing and I was dying was nobody cares anyway, and whose second was, I wish I was thinner. My eating disorder, my choice of friends, my self-beratement, and my self-disguise reflects my pursuit of senseless perfection. My pursuit to be the thin, pretty girl who could call other girls pigs. I really wanted to be like one of them, but the thing is, I'm not them. I'm me. I'm Abby. I love theater and warm hugs and puns and people who make me think. And I love the moment I realized that me, myself, and I are all synonyms for perfectly imperfect. I'm Abby. I'm me. And I hate GameStop. You know what that feeling is? It's the feeling of waking up. I tried to change my story instead of telling the truth.
Posted the 8th of November 2015, 9:41 p.m.
3 months after the speech, on a pro-anorexia website I'd been a member of for almost 4 years.
Again, I'm so done. I hate myself so much, but I eat because I feel gross and awful and make myself feel worse. Can anybody even remotely relate? I hate myself so much and I need to see the light at the end again. I feel like every day kills me a little more.
I thought I was recovered when I wrote that speech. Oh boy, was I wrong. Eating disorders are scary because they can tell you anything and you want to believe it. It works like this. The eating disorder will take all of your insecurities, all of your anxiety, and all of your troubles and pack the pain into a lunchbox and tell you that it's all going to be okay. At first it works. You feel better. But then, slowly but surely, as you get colder and colder and colder, you realize she buried you too. And there's no exit in sight. Edna had convinced me to sacrifice my authenticity for her. She told me that if I made every single person in that auditorium believe that I was okay, we could recover together in secret. Nobody had to know what was happening. And the two of us could live happily ever after. But saying that speech out loud, lying to a room full of people who truly believed me, I woke up. It's time to say the thing of the thing in the thing. Moving the mountain. So, small Abby has finally seen a mountain in their head for the first time. What the fuck do I do? Well, first, I need to really look at it. If I'm about to tackle this mountain head on, I need to see it from every single angle. The first part of waking up hits you like a lightning bolt. You're jolted awake with the truth. But the process of waking up actually comes in waves. Think about how large a mountain actually is and how many sides and angles you can see it from. There's a lot to see with one mountain. It takes time to fully see a mountain you've built. And you have to be able to fully see it before you can start moving it. And sometimes before you even want to start moving it. It's how I can realize that I have an eating disorder and then a couple months later post on a pro-anorexia blog. There's a lot of denial in the soup of waking up and a lot of obsession. Obsession is a good word for what waking up feels like. I felt like I was spending more time thinking about food, more time thinking about the way that I looked, angry because I realized Edna was destroying me and control was taking away my sense of purpose in life. Recovery's like that though. It's strangely necessary to obsess because it's you obsessing. You identify that other voice in your head. And once you can see it, or in my case, her, you can start to destroy it. The phase where healing becomes an obsession instead of a reality doesn't last forever. Thank God. See, our darkest moments, they don't teach us about humanity's warpedness or our capacity to suffer. They teach us that we're stronger than we know. Strong. 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 What does that word even mean? To me, it had always meant control. When you have an eating disorder, shrinking is the only way to grow. But control isn't strength. Letting go of that control takes a lot more. This summer, I backpacked and kayaked in Alaska. I called my grandma before I left. Ring, 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 ring. Absolutely terrified. I didn't know if I was going to be strong enough. This is what she said to me.
Abby, it's important to scare yourself. Because it's the only way to grow. And letting yourself grow is what makes someone strong.
That really meant something to me at the time. I realized later how to condense it. It's brave to wake up. It's strong to stay awake. Bread and Puppet was the first place I was asked to be who I was instead of who I wanted to be. Oh, what's Bread and Puppet? I'm so glad that you asked. Buckle up. I heard about Bread and Puppet from a friend in acting school. I only knew two things, camping and theater. But with that limited knowledge, I knew it was the place for me. I spent that summer on a commune in the Northeast Kingdom of Vermont, the Bread and Puppet Theater Company. I made cheap art from cardboard on a farm with 80 artists from around the world, all coming together to avoid showers and find out what it means to be a resourceful artist in this day and age. We learned different skills every day from 9 to 5 at the farm. Yep, the farm. And yeah, we did perform in all white, and we did have a burpee show to the Communist Manifesto.
All bits, fast, frozen relations with their train of ancient and venerable prejudices and opinions. Our sons
It was really fun. The people at Bread and Puppet embraced life. They were wonderfully weird, and every person was so comfortable in who they be. There was A, a fashion designer from London who created clothes that reflected a world that she could see, full of funky patterns and sunny words. A stood for connection to the present. There was E, a non-binary bass player from Columbus who knew how to make anyone laugh. E stood for stability. There was P, non-binary stand-up comic from Richmond, Virginia, who worked in an Amazon factory and aspired to smell like a Dairy Queen. And they really did. P stood for acceptance. And there was K, a Hungarian woman who lit up any room that she was in. K stood for genuine love. The people I met on the farm were loved for who they were. They didn't have to change or achieve or suffer to be loved. They were authentic, and that was all that they needed. And that scared Edna more than anything. She shrunk for the first time in my life. At Bread and Puppet, I met a version of me that I had never met before. And I liked them. They enjoyed stilting and sorting recycling and the thrift shop that was a 2-mile walk down the road. And I wanted to be that person, not some idea of a person. For the first time, I defined the difference between Abby and Edna. This was my final wave of waking up. At Bread and Puppet, I realized I was done seeing the mountain. It was time to move it. I could kill Edna. And when she caught her breath, of course I was scared, but I was ready. Authentic people can inspire the others around them to grow. They are heroes. I want to redefine the term hero. A hero isn't superhuman. A hero is so human they can't help but make everybody else feel super. It doesn't take much to be the growth you want to see in the world. All it takes is being here and taking a stand for what you care about. So, you've got a mountain in front of you. And you can see it for exactly what it is. And you can see it for exactly what it's done. And what it is not something you can karate chop down. Believe it or not, it's impossible to move an entire mountain at once. Humans physically can't do this. But there was one day that my Alaskan team, we took a day hike up a mountain we were camping at the base of. We scaled up the side of the mountain, and with every step we took, rocks fell. And I realized in that moment that we were moving the mountain. It was just one rock at a time. And that's kind of what you have to do. Start grabbing some rocks. I started talking about what was genuinely happening to me without making it sound better than it actually was. I started connecting to the truth, which brought authenticity into my life. And that brought people into my life. I met B. B knew Edna the same way I knew Edna. And when we talked about her, Edna would leave the room. It's really lonely to have an eating disorder because eating disorders thrive in secrecy. And B and I kept each other from being alone in the fight. And I hadn't expected that at all. Expectations make or break a moment. The best moments in my life are all broken expectations. The best concert that I have ever been to was a punk show in the basement of a Donato's Pizza in Columbus. I don't know if you've ever been in a mosh pit or if you've ever seen a mosh pit, but it kind of feels like this. Can you hear? I can't hear. So sweaty. In the middle of the mosh pit, having the time of my life, another expectation broke. Even though I was having such a positive day, Edna came for me. I suddenly became incredibly aware of my body, people touching my body, how much space I took up. But I didn't want to stop. Abby was enjoying this. Edna was the one that wasn't. And you bet your ass I fought for that moment to be mine. This was my first mosh, and it was fucking spectacular. It turns out moshing is a lovely form of mindfulness. I think I blacked out that night on pure joy, pushing miserable strangers around who were just happy to be miserable with each other. I didn't expect that night to be one of the best nights of my entire life. So wait, how was I able to quiet Edna in the mosh pit? To finally let go of all the control? Short answer? Therapy. The experts aren't wrong, folks. Therapy works, and asking for help helped me move a lot of my mountain. There is no shame in asking for help. The only things that don't want you to ask for help, and the only people that don't want you to ask for help, probably don't have your best interests at heart. I went to the Eating Recovery Center when I was a sophomore in college, where I learned that the voice in my head that I'd learned to identify wasn't necessarily me. And so I named her. I named her Edna. You know, plants have always reminded me of people. We all require different essentials to keep us healthy and happy. We all change and grow, shedding leaves and pots as the seasons shift. And we all have deep roots that help us navigate the world. And sometimes our roots are rotten. One time I accidentally put the wrong fertilizer in a lamb's ear pot. I had to take the plant out of the soil and cut away the infected roots so that the plant could grow new ones and stay alive. At the Eating Recovery Center, I learned how many of my roots were rotting me from the inside out. I'd been filling myself up with the wrong thing all along. And when I cut away all the bad parts, there wasn't much there. But at the core of my infected roots, I found something untouched. It was hope. Radical hope. I value hope. Values are the reasons why we live our lives. It's everything that fills us up without digging new holes. Everything that keeps us awake. Edna doesn't value anything that I value. Edna only values perfection. And here's the problem with perfection. You can't ever achieve it. And so you aren't ever full. You aren't ever happy. You aren't ever thin enough. You aren't ever pretty enough. You aren't ever enough. And Edna won't be satisfied until you die. I value kindness and growth and the feeling of a good hug and painting and poetry and roller skating and clothes. I love clothes. It's kind of the most gendered thing about me. I have this thing where I compulsively change what I'm wearing just because I love the feelings that clothes make you feel. And the wackier I look, the zestier I feel. See, in the real world, you can hide behind the brightest colors and the wackiest patterns. You can't do that in the woods. Every day when you're backpacking, you put on the same pair of clothes and you walk from point A to point B with the same group of people. There's nothing to hide behind. Spending weeks upon weeks with the same group of people reveals everything beyond what you look like. There's no room for anything other than who you are. Edna emphasizes how much space you take up. So it made sense, wearing the same layers of clothes for weeks and weeks and weeks on end, Edna found a lot of creative things to say to me. And she did. But I'd done a lot of work moving my mountain at that point in time. So I found it very possible to cope with those thoughts. I canoed through Canada a couple of years prior, and it was very similar. Still moving from point A to point B with the same group of people, and still learning everything beyond what a person looked like. But that trip was 3 years prior, before I started actively moving rocks in my mountain. And Edna tore me apart. She hurt me. And you know what? That's really sad. I wish that that wasn't the truth. But when I compared my Alaska experience to my Canada experience, I realized that I was different. I had values that were more important than weight and appearance and perfection. I had grown. I was Abby. In Alaska, I wholeheartedly accepted that who I was had nothing to do with what I looked like. Who you are isn't what you look like. And with that one realization, I rewrote the story that Edna had fed me for far too long. With that one realization, I killed Edna for good. So what now? How do I finally put this demon to bed? You kiss it goodbye. You don't need them anymore. And then you turn around and walk away. We can't choose the pain that happens in our life, but we can choose not to suffer. Are you happy? Are you, right now, in this very second, happy with your life? This story was about Abby versus Edna. But let's be really real for a second. Edna isn't real. Edna's just a performance. Edna is how I talk about the darkest part of me. Edna is just me being an asshole to myself. The real battle was Abby versus Abby. It was me taking down the fact that I hated myself. I loathed myself. And I built Edna to try and make it better. Edna's my enemy, but I am the creator. The problem in my life was never that I wasn't skinny or wasn't pretty, that I wasn't feminine enough, or that I wasn't talented enough. The problem was that I couldn't see it in myself. We have to be so careful about the things we choose to believe about ourselves. If you whisper into your ear night after night after night that you're horrible and unlovable and undeserving, you're building yourself an enemy. You're building your own destruction. Everyone has this deep desire to be loved. And I think sometimes we think we have to change to be loved. I know I believed that. At the end of the day, there is one person you are going to spend the rest of your life with, and that's you. I don't know what you think about when you look in the mirror. I don't know where or who you call home. But if you have a voice in the back of your head spewing you shit, challenge them to war. Ask yourself to win. I promise that life can get better. I promise that you can be happy. One more question for you. Are you awake?
Oh, yay!
Yay!
you,
That was
Abby.
awesome, Abby. Thank you so much coming to us live from Michigan. And by the way, I love your studio. It's a great space.
Me too. She's
Great. So we hope to see you again, Abby, at our next High Desert Fringe. And I know that you were out there. You were out there last week protesting, and we want to thank you for going out there and doing that. And I don't have anything else to say. It was really moving, and I love what you did. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
so
See you
much, Abby.
soon. Bye-bye. Thank
Bye.
you.
You say I'm living on the fringe. I say I'm living on the fringe.